Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jaidan Brown. Today I have a walkthrough video for you on how I made and color graded this shot for my latest cinematic video, which you can see right here.
Sat back with the window down, 80 an hour and the radio loud.
So if you want to watch the whole of that video, then the link will be in the description, link will be on screen somewhere. Go check it out, it was super fun to make. But today we're going to be focusing on one shot from that, and that is this shot. And we're going to be turning it from this into this. And I'm going to show you how I color graded and, you know, edited it all, just to give you guys an insight. Okay, so to start off with, we've imported our footage into After Effects. That's what we're going to be using. You can use Premiere Pro, Final Cut, but I'm going to be using After Effects. The steps will pretty much all be the same in each program. You can even use DaVinci Resolve, I guess. But yeah, we're going to be using After Effects. So let's grab our footage and create a new comp. This footage is 4K footage shot at 24 frames per second. I shot it on my Panasonic G7. And I used a Moser Aircross gimbal to stabilize it. So as you can see here, this is the footage. Even though I used the gimbal, it's still quite, you know, shaky in some parts, so we're going to fix that with a warp stabilizer. But to start off with, we're going to find the part that we want to actually use, and I want to use this bit here. So we're going to Control-Shift-D, move this first bit, go to the next bit, or you can use, I think, Alt and end bracket, go to this bit. So now we have this clip here. We're going to drag this across and resize our comp to match this. Right click here and trim comp to work area. So now we have our footage here, nice and lovely. Okay, so we're going to add a warp stabilizer to this. I already have it loaded up actually. Yeah, so search warp here, warp stabilizer VFX, add it onto here, and we're just going to wait for this to stabilize our footage or analyze our footage, and we'll see how it comes out. Okay, so as you can see, the warp stabilizer has finished analyzing and stabilizing our footage, and let's give it a watch, see how it came out. Look at that, took out all those mini shutters and it is so nice and smooth. You can kind of see on the screen here, it kind of warps a bit, but honestly, it's not really that noticeable. If you want to fix that, you can turn this down to like 20% and it will restabilize your footage. And we'll just see how that looks, see if it looks any or less jello-like. Yeah, I think we'll go with 20%. It looks slightly better. But yeah, that is perfectly fine for our stabilization now. Just keep these settings same: smooth motion, subspace warp, stabilize, crop. Your footage is obviously going to be different to mine, so you might have to adjust these settings, you know, change the smoothness. But these settings are what I'm going to use for my one. So anyway, we have our clips stabilized. So we are now going to pre-compose this, and we'll just call this footage. So then we have our clip here, pre-composed. And firstly, we're going to start off with the actual main color grade. So to do that, we're going to add an adjustment layer. I like to do my color grades on adjustment layers just so I can, if I want to change the opacity of them, I can do that easily. So to do this color grade, we're going to search for Lumetri colors, add this effect in the adjustment layer. I can rename this adjustment layer to color with a U because we're in UK. And yeah, let's start color grading this. So as I said before, we shot this on the Panasonic G7, and we shot it at a flat profile. The profile I used it was like sharpness, contrast, and saturation like turned pretty much all the way down. So we shot it super flat, shot it in 4K, 24 frames per second. I shot it in 4K as opposed to, I shot it in 4K 24 frames per second as opposed to 1080p 60, because I've noticed when color grading 1080p footage from the G7, the bitrate is a lot lower. I'm pretty sure it's 24 megabits per second or something like that, which is a lot lower than the 4K bitrate. So the colors break apart super easily, and I just prefer to grade 4K footage. It's just got a higher bitrate, so there's more information to grade. So that is the reason for that. If I did shoot it at 60 though, I could have, you know, half speeded it by 50% to get 24 frames per second. Which would have made it even smoother, but we shot on the gimbal and warp stabilizer worked, so that wasn't an issue. But anyway, into the grade. So basic corrections. So let's start off with adjusting this white balance. So we're going to only very slightly cool it down a bit, just dragging it that way. I also think this footage looks a bit too green, so we're going to increase this. Just petting around with it. I think about there's fine. I really like this nice warm tones coming from the left hand side, which we're going to enhance later on. Exposure, It's obviously, you can see the skies blowing out, but bringing the exposure down is not going to ever bring that detail back because obviously it's been clipped. So we're going to, you know, slightly decrease this by like a tiny bit, just because I want to get like a kind of like a darker, moodier shot with more contrast. But that said, we're going to add more contrast obviously because this shot was shot super flat, so we're going to add something like 50. See how that looks? Like some nice contrast there. What you can do as well is bring up the lumetri scopes, which I can have here, which is going to help me grade. So obviously you can see if we put it too far, we're going to start clipping, or getting close to clipping, but I think 50, that's a nice point. Highlights, we're going to bring down ever so slightly. Oh no, actually we're going to bring, so if we bring down highlights, you can see it kind of makes the sky go darker, but as you can still see on these lumetri scopes, it's still clipped over here, so we're never going to bring that back. So bringing them up, we're just going to add a bit more contrast. So we can bring them up for about there, just so it's just underneath the 100 line. That's quite nice. Shadows, we're going to bring down those slightly. We don't want to clip the blacks obviously, so we'll leave it about there. We've got some nice contrast going on now. Now onto the whites. We can enhance the whites a bit. This is just creating even more contrast in the image because obviously it was really flat. And then blacks we'll bring down, but obviously not too much. There we go, that looks fine. I think that looks really good at the moment. So obviously before and after. So we've actually balanced out this image quite well. With the white balance, you're probably noticing that it doesn't actually look that accurate, but this is obviously a stylized grade, so I want that kind of, I want it to be warmer. Even though we brought the temperature down, it was obviously a really warm day, so I'm not trying to make it look super accurate, but this will do for what we're doing. Saturation we're going to leave at 100. Okay, so that's basic correction done. On to the next section, creative. In the creative section, we can probably just tint these highlights because I want to go for that sort of orange and teal look. Obviously if we tint them too much then it looks a bit wrong. We can tint these highlights slightly, just go tiny bit there. That'll do. We're not going to mess with any of this other stuff in here. This will be all fine. If you want to go for that faded film look, which is kind of popular, that actually looks kind of cool. We might try that. That's not what I did for this color grade, but that's kind of a cool effect. Kind of overused now, but it's still quite cool. Onto the curves. So in the curves, we're gonna again bring out even more contrast in this image. So we're gonna do a standard S curve. Just bringing down those shadows, bringing up those highlights. Maybe not as much. Just until we get something which looks kind of cool. I like that. I really like the contrast now. As you can see, we've brought out a lot more contrast in this image. We've got the left side, which is really bright, compared to this right side, which is obviously really dark. Now into the other colors, RGB. So we're going to slightly, ever so slightly, make small S curves in here, just to create a bit more color contrast. As you can see, what we're doing, this is making the highlights, or this is mid-tones actually, slightly more orange, which we want. So we've brought down the reds and the shadows, which has obviously brought up greens into the shadows, which I don't really want greens. I want it to be more blues in the shadows. So we're going to take those out of the shadows, and then greens up again. As you can see, we're starting to get that nice orange look. And then blues, we're going to really boost into the shadows. Or not really, but you know, slightly boost into the shadows. And then blues, bring it down on the highlights again. So as you can see, that looks, to me, that looks tons better. So before and after, and that was just using the curves. That is the power of curves. You can completely transform your image just by using a bunch of, you know, sliders and stuff. But anyway, that is the RGB curves done for now. We could go back and tweak this in the future. But onto the hue and saturation selectors. I'm pretty sure this isn't new, but it's fairly new to After Effects and Premiere Pro, because I don't remember this ever being here, or I never actually used this. I've only used it in DaVinci Resolve, this sort of selector. But this is really handy for adjusting the saturation, the luminance, the hue of specific colors in your image. So we are going to select the oranges, or the, I guess they're kind of greeny at the moment, but we're going to set this sort of color, which is over here, I guess. So I'd just like to select it. You can use this eyedropper tool to select it, but we'll just use this way. And we're going to bring down the saturation of those ever so slightly. You can, you know, increase the saturation to max and have like a proper orange and teal look, but I kind of like a softer, more like, I kind of like more pinky teals, pink teal, like not really red and orange, no, not really red oranges and teals, more pinky, more softer. So we're going to bring this down ever so slightly, not too much, I reckon that'll do. And also it kind of brings out the greens in it. It's not as green in my opinion, but yeah, we're going to do the same on this section of the same selection on the hue versus hue. So that was hue versus saturation, now hue versus hue. And on this one we're going to actually change the hue, so if we bring it down it's changing it really green and we don't want that, so we're going to increase it ever so slightly and it's going to make it slightly more pinky. It's kind of, yeah, it'll be going towards reds and pinks. Obviously that's too much, so we're going to slightly increase it just about there. That looks good to me. Obviously, again, one thing to note is that, well, you don't know this, but my monitors aren't actually calibrated, so this could look really bad on everybody else's one, but this is how I guess it's looking on my monitors. I have two monitors and the colors are really different on both of them, so I'm kind of comparing on each, and it's looking alright, so I guess we'll just have to see how it is. But yeah, that is it for the hue and saturation hue selectors, I guess. And that was pretty much basically it for the color grade. I did add a bit of vignetting. You don't really have to do this, but it kind of, I just thought it looked kind of cool. I just add like a tiny bit of vignette. Maybe increase the midpoint just so it's not as much. But yeah, you don't have to add vignette, but we just add a tiny bit. Maybe a tiny bit more. I don't know, it just kind of puts the focus. I want the focus to be on this left side and on obviously the subject of the video. Oh, another thing to note is color wheels. You can, you know, increase or change around these color wheel values. I think pushing orange into the highlights might actually be smarter. Actually more reds, actually more red oranges instead of greeny oranges, because that'll kind of undo what we just did, but we'll push maybe that into the tiniest bit, and then shadows actually want to push a tiny bit of blue, just because I think this looks, I think the, you know, contrast, obviously the contrast between orange and blue is their contrasting colors, so add a tiny bit of that, and yeah, that'll be fine. And that is pretty much it for the main part of the grade. But obviously this does not look like the final video you saw, which means obviously there's some more stuff which we'll go into now. So that was the grade, but I also added some, I enhanced it in other ways. So the first way I did that was creating a solid. So I went layer, new, solid, and we'll just name this gradient, and we're going to select this nice color over here. So we have a nice solid, and when it loads, if it loads, if my After Effects doesn't crash, which it did crash. Okay, welcome back. So After Effects just crashed, but we are back, and unfortunately I didn't save it, so I just went through and quickly re-edited the color. It may look slightly different, but we just pretty much did exactly the same thing. The values may be slightly different, but yeah. So yeah, anyway, we were in the middle of creating a new solid, and then we selected this color here, or you know, one of the highlight colors, and it actually worked this time. So you have that nice solid there. I'll actually go ahead and just change this slightly by clicking on it, layer, solid settings, and maybe brightening it up, and maybe saturation a bit more. But yeah, so there we go. That's a good color we want for our footage, I guess. I might just remove this bimetry just so I can read this footage better now. But yes, we have this. Now we want to double click on the rectangle tool to create a mask. and we are going to drag this mask right over here, just to the corner. So as you can see, we've just got a corner of the solid on the layer, and then we're going to feather this mask to mental. We're just going to crazily feather it, just so it's really smooth. So as you can see, we've created like a nice looking cool gradient, I guess, across the side of our image, which looks kind of cool. We're going to change the mode from normal into screen, and that is looking quite nice. This has though made our highlights a bit more blown out, so I might just adjust these slightly. Alright, just a tad. Yeah, that'll do. That'll do. But yeah, we're gonna change that to screen. So now we have this cool glow, I guess, on the side of our screen, which is kind of cool. So before and after, that's just one of the techniques I use to enhance it, I guess you could say, or make it seem like there's more of a glow from that area. You can obviously adjust this how you want it to be, feather it more, decrease the opacity actually as well, just so it's not as I guess in your face. Something else you can do is keyframe the opacity of it to flicker, so we can have it so it flickers slightly, you know, up and down. Let's just see how this looks. This could look really bad or could look really good, or you know, but you just got to try things. Okay, let's see. So that could look interesting, I guess. There's like kind of light flashes, which you could do, but that's just another technique. But I think I'm just going to keep it as how I had it, just like that, just for the sake of it being the same as how I actually edited it. But now we have that shot, which looks, in my opinion, crazy cool. There's one last thing I did to enhance it, I guess, which was add another solid. We'll just create this one as a black solid, and I went to effects and searched in lens flare and generate lens flare. Boom. Under lens type, we're going to go for 105mm prime, just because I thought this one looks kind of cool. And what I did was I moved it off screen over to here, or roughly over here. Changed the blending mode from this one to screen as well. And as you can see, we have a nice lens flare, but the thing is, it doesn't really match, in my opinion. Like, this is way too green, so what I did again was went to tint over here and just changed this to one of these colors, and it kind of makes it blend in, and that kind of adds like a cool lens flare, I guess. Change the opacity on this as well, slightly down, and also keyframe the center to move, so the lens flare moves. Oh, I didn't even keyframe it. Well, you obviously click the keyframe button. So we have it starting over here, then it moves off. Which you can make slower or faster. But yeah, that's just another thing I did to make it kind of cool, because obviously the sun was right there. My lens doesn't actually pick up any lens flares, but you know, you can just add it in post anyway. That's looking nice. Then the last thing I did to the shot was, well, firstly I added some black bars. So I just have some 235 Cinescope 1080p black bars here, which we're going to add to the footage, just to, because I think having black bars looks kind of cool. Obviously, if you were going to export this, you wouldn't actually add the black bars in. You would go composition settings, and then change it from 920 by 1080 to 920 by something like 816. And as you can see, that's still a 2:3:5 aspect ratio, and then you'd export it like that. But because I was exporting this for Instagram, and Instagram, unlike YouTube, doesn't actually add black bars above your video if it's a different aspect ratio than your viewing device. I added the black bars in, just because it kind of looks cinematic as well, just makes it look cool. And then the final thing I did was just add a simple pan. So to do this, I just click the main footage, selected position, went to the start, went to the end, put the start, moved it up, and then as you can see, and that simple pan, which kind of, well, I tried to make it so it followed, as you can see the cow's head moving up, kind of follows that, and it kind of follows the motion. See the subject's head moving up as well, and it kind of looks, it just looks really good. But yeah, that is how I edited this single shot from that cinematic which I uploaded. Again, you can view it in the description, or there will be a link somewhere on screen now. But yeah, thank you for watching this walkthrough / tutorial. I hope you learned something about how I went about color grading and my process and all that stuff, and I hope you took away something from it. But yeah, if you did enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, comment on anything you want to see me do, any tutorial. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.